Welcome, everyone. This is another podcast for the Good Morning News. How you guys doing?
Good.
Very well, Gelfie.
Doing good, thank you.
It's nice to see you back here, Hero. And today we have a new guest, which is Paul. Paul is our new member at the DAO. Do you want to talk? You want to introduce yourself a little bit, Paul?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Paul. I'm from Germany. Early Bankless DAO member, founded Bankless Germany as an international media node. And now, Diego brought me here. Really excited to be here, actually, and taking care of the German version, I guess, of the Good Morning News.
Nice.
You did a great job.
Yeah, Diego also brought me into the Good Morning News. So he's this guy, man. We can't lose. We can't afford to lose him.
He's the marketing master. Paul, I love that you have a San Diego Chargers American football helmet on.
Yeah, I love it as well. I used to live in San Diego and rooting for the Chargers. Worst team in the league, I guess. But yeah, love it.
You know, if you don't watch a lot of football, they're all bad. It's fine.
True. I do watch a lot. I mean, Super Bowl is coming up, right?
Yeah.
Guys, the crypto natives are expecting the Super Bowl. We'll see, right? What's going to happen on Sunday?
On Sunday, next Sunday.
This Sunday, tomorrow. It'll be exciting.
Okay.
So I don't really watch a lot of football anymore. I used to. And my understanding, there's going to be a lot of crypto commercials, so I'm there for the crypto commercials, man. And I'm ready, dude. I have, I have my ETH patch on one side. I'm going to have my Solana patch, kind of by my butt. I'm going to have, I'm not an ETH maxi though. Unlike my friend Diego over here, who is an ETH maxi. I'm not. I'm a layer one polyamorous, whatever I am. I don't know.
No, don't worry. I don't judge. Don't problem.
It's okay. I get judged a lot. If it makes you feel better, I'm 90% ETH, but I still like a little bit of ADA just to kind of rub it into public face.
Do you like what?
Yeah.
What do you like?
A little bit of algo, a little bit of algo, a little bit of Ava. Yeah.
Hero's going to be wearing his Cardano underwear.
You know that, right?
Yeah.
No, they're not going to make me rich, but they do diversify in the case of some other nightmare on Ethereum. Like dark hard forks and shit. So, a former lawyer boy, safety guy, right? So you can go 90% in on ETH, and you can have 10% spread around the ecosystem just in case you're just totally fucking wrong. So
okay, if Ether goes down, you lose 90% of your portfolio. So it's not really diversified, huh?
No, and actually it's probably more like, honestly, it's probably more like 70-30, because there is some Bitcoin in there too, but don't tell anybody.
I would ask you about Bitcoin, because you said about a lot of bad blockchains, but you didn't say anything about Bitcoin.
Yeah, no. So I think really my holdings are, probably 70% ETH, 20% Bitcoin, and then 10% or 15% spread around the other L1s. But if you do it it depends how you do it too. Like whether it's by token amount or by market cap or by volume. Because I went into got into Solana when it was single digits, right? And now it's worth a bunch. So it looks like I actually own a lot of it on paper by money. Well, not a lot, but an amount. So I don't know. I guess it depends how you do the math, right? How do you guys count your bags? Or in my case, like my dime sacks by by how much the total value is, or by how many tokens you actually hold?
I only denominate in crypto.
Right.
I don't know.
That's what I do too. I just one ETH is one ETH, right? One bank is one bank. Yeah, totally. That's how I look at it too.
I try to do that, but I have lots of coins that are locked because I got it on ICOs. So I can do anything with them right now. So I avoid to do this balancing because it never works. I have this balance. Yeah, there's no point. So we have to wait for unlock, and then
she tells me, why don't you sell some of your bank, and we'll use it to go there, where she was wanting to come to Florida for permissionless. And I'm going, gosh, I don't know, man, and she's like, just sell some bank. And I'm going like, huh? You tell me to do what? No.
Well, the answer there is we will go when they accept bank as fucking payment to get there, right?
Pretty much, man. So I'm like, that doesn't leave the blockchain, honey. I'm sorry.
It's got to stay.
If we're talking about selling crypto, I gonna have I would like to have this recorded, because as soon as ETH reach to 20K, I'm gonna buy tickets. Maybe you guys come to Brazil, or I go to Kansas, so we can have a beer, we can have a talk, and I want to meet you guys in person.
And
As soon as
corn.
it reaches 20K.
10K by July,
this year,
boys.
probably.
10K by July.
You're dreaming. How about we bring? Yeah, I think we should go to Brazil. I'm just saying.
Am I dreaming?
Yeah.
Hang on. I'm going to pause right here. Think about this. I sat in on a meeting 2 days ago with the Merge team. We are there, boys. The Merge will ship by the end of May. It will ship. We are there. It's running on the test net right now, fellas. 10K ETH by July.
It's totally doable, obviously, right? So it'll be interesting to watch, what happens with all these things. I mean, like there's a little part of me that's slightly concerned about the merge, right? Like just a little bit,
Why?
The
I'll put
lawyer
those
part of
concerns
you,
at
right?
ease.
What's that?
I say the lawyer part of you think
Yeah,
is
I
worried
mean,
about.
technologically, it seems like it's all good. And the more that I understand about it, I mean, the more it just like, no brainer, obviously, right? But
so I shared your concern about 6 months ago, Hero, but the fact is we're there now. Well, you can go over to the test nets and you can see this running right now.
It's already working. There's more than a year that is working already.
I understand. I'm wondering about centralization and sort of like how decentralized the nodes really are going to be over time.
Hero, you just discovered what proof of stake was just a couple of weeks ago. Really at its core, right? It's freaking
bullshit.
out a little bit.
That is not.
You are worried about the merge, but you hold Solana. Doesn't make sense.
So again, Solana is a highly centralized, beautiful blockchain.
It's cool tech when it works,
The
right? When it works.
Web 2
When it works,
blockchain.
yeah.
I want to learn more about more about proof of space and time, but only by traveling through space and time.
Hero, do
I love
you
it.
worry about governments getting to crypto anyways?
I mean, in terms of stable coins or in terms of, well, I mean, I worry.
General.
I do think that that's one of the things I do think about with proof of stake, right? I mean, now, like all joking aside, so I do worry about institutional adoption of, Bitcoin and, in a small sense, I worry in a large sense about institutional adoption, and I mean institutions, both in terms of sort of, legacy investment houses, but more specifically like sovereign nation states, right? That will try to buy up all the ETH and make control essentially, the securitization essentially the securitization or the validation or whatever you want to call it of the blockchain, right? And so essentially you'll have, the majority of nodes owned by, the same centralized authorities who have controlled the banking systems forever. So I think that's a real risk, right, with proof of stake that no one talks about. So that's when I talk about these kind of concerns. I think it's valid. I think it's a longer term horizon than we care to think about. But I mean, I think in 10 years, if we think that, it's going to be just, 2 or 3 or 10 or 50 million people running nodes, and we're in a beautiful decentralized network, and you don't have people with deep pockets and other agendas, controlling a ton of that proof of stake network, I think that'd be very surprising, and so I think long term, seriously, for the ecosystem, it's totally.
I think this is a great conversation to have. I'm glad we're talking about this. I have had my personal concerns with proof of stake from the very beginning. There is, and especially Ethereum's model of proof of stake, where there's that initial kind of sticker shock with it, right? When you first realize you have to have 32 ETH to even qualify to be a validator or to qualify to stake, and it's like, well, wait a minute. That really feels that I think any true crypto native, any true decentralization maxi, I think that leaves a bad taste in your mouth, right? Now, there are liquid staking solutions like Lido and all that, which are still centralized as shit. But you're right. You're right. The question of what separates proof of stake from the system that we already have now in legacy is a question that needs to be asked. And you're also right in the fact that nobody talks about it either. It is kind of this little taboo subject that you quickly have pitchforks thrown at you if you try to bring it up in certain circles. And there is something to be said about proof of work too. I know we're battling the climate narrative right now, but to throw something like the Satoshi consensus mechanism completely out the window because we're worried about the climate narrative, I think that is a real injustice to to the entire crypto space, because there is something truly magical about that proof of work consensus model that I mean, there's nothing else in the world like it, right? I don't know. It's a great conversation.
No, that's it. No, well, it's the thing, right? And like, so the thing that I think about when I think about proof of work, and I think that you guys have heard me say this, or maybe publisher has, I mean, essentially that, what does it cost to prop up the petrodollar in terms of environmental damage, right? And, the proof of work, is a consensus mechanism that takes power, computational power, and thus real world power to operate at scale, right? Fine. And arguably, like, the more decentralized proof of work is, the more power it takes to run, right? And so, okay, we can, if you want to like give poor analogies, it's the same amount of energy as Sweden or whatever, country they choose to pick that day, to use as an equivalency, but, and that's fine, but I can tell you that, the US military alone uses a shit ton more energy than the proof of work network we have now. And if you look at, sort of what it takes to prop up, liberal democracy and, the dollar regime across the globe, it's quite a lot more, right? And so, now is a petrodollar a revolutionary mechanism? Well, I mean, for rich people, it is, because it keeps them rich, right? And so, the problem with proof of work, from the angle of, sort of legacy nation states, is that it does take their power away over time, right? Because it actually is, it's decentralized. And I would argue that proof of work is actually a lot more decentralized over the long run if we let it run than proof of stake will ever be, because proof of stake's a lot easier to kind of centralize. All you got to do is have money, right? Got to build infrastructure. You don't have to, you can't, like, you can still run, as far as I understand, you can still run a Bitcoin node in your bedroom, right? And now, are you going to actually get any Bitcoin out of that? Maybe, maybe not, but I don't know, man. Like, as long as all you have to do is just buy a bunch of ETH to validate, and there's no other sort of like larger parameters in the system that determines how validation works besides how much ETH you have staked.
It's spooky.
I don't see how that doesn't go to centralization over time.
It's spooky.
I mean, I just don't see it, right? And so if we're looking at like, so I'm thinking like, okay, so the merge happens, and we're going to start to see the centralization of Ethereum. And truthfully, the reason I have other L1s is because I don't really like it all that much. I mean, I love Ethereum. I think it's the greatest blockchain there is, period, right? Because it's the only blockchain that actually has, I mean, let's be honest, like real computational power in, at this point, a pretty decentralized manner. And it's, fully, you can, it's like you can, in the money Lego analogy, I don't love, but I mean, you could do anything on Ethereum. You can dream
It's the most reliable. I think it's the best thing we can say about it.
Totally. And so, Solana, we make fun of the centralized and it goes down, in all truth, ADA doesn't work, right? I mean, no matter what we want to think, it doesn't work. Algo does work, but nobody really likes it very much.
It's made by the CIA. Everybody knows that.
Actually, or think about IOTA or Next or any of the other ones, right? That, I mean, people sort of, or what are some of those other ones? They're like $4 or $5 a token. The Cello network, would be one, I guess. But like, so why are we optimizing for centralization? And I can't get that out of my mind, and I don't like it. I don't know what to do about it. I haven't read anything about it. I suppose I could do some writing about it, but that's kind of how I see it play out, guys. I mean, I think over the long, unless some changes to the way that we run the proof of stake mechanism going forward, like it's going to be a centralized blockchain owned by the same people who own the shit forever. And that's really kind of what I think.
So here's the ops side of it. And this is kind of something that I've been kicking around for a while now. The difference is, and I know this isn't the perfect answer, but it is an answer. The difference is that anybody anywhere will still be able to participate in this Ethereum network. Right. And again, I know that's not the perfect answer, but it is better than what we have in legacy right now, where anybody can be locked out, and a lot of people are locked out, right? If you have a certain flag on your country, then you're not using, our SWIFT system, for crying out loud.
For sure. So the permissionless,
you don't even have to go to be flagged because of your country. But when if we remember what happened when you do Wall Street bets, the same thing. Just people were buying, and they were just buying stocks, and suddenly they were not allowed to do it.
But to Hero's point, though, if we continue down this path, if Ethereum does 10 years from now does end up extremely centralized because of this proof of stake move, can they then begin to censor the blockchain? Can they begin to start blacklisting and, saying what transactions can and can't go through?
Of course they can.
Well,
right?
maybe it's yet to be seen. We don't know.
How about this protocol like
in
Rocket
theory,
Pool?
they can. Yeah, it's easy. So like Gelfi is saying, it's easier we know that Rocket Pool and Lido, they are in a kind of way centralized.
And those are probably going to be the centralized powers that end up gaining the most control over the network, or things like Lido and Rocket Pool with their liquid staking, because it'll be through those protocols that people like us will be able to stake our ETH, right, and help validate the network.
Why don't we do, right? I mean, but think about this too, guys, right? So like, here's the question that I just don't know how to do the math to answer it, right? But I think that it can be answered. So like, if we have to stake 32 ETH to be a validator, and we do that because, we both want to have some skin in the game, and, we want to sort of incentivize, buying and, keeping staking of ETH, and we don't want to make it too onerous. You got to remember, like when, 32 ETH, when that number first popped up, was like not a lot of money relative to what it is now, right? But the question would be for me is like, okay, so we do know that, if you have, 90% of the validators, essentially, if we have what am I trying to say? How do I really phrase this? If we have, fewer validators, but staking more versus many validators staking less, like where do those y-intercepts hit, right? Where if you could stake, 8 ETH or something and then you have, 200 million people staking versus you can stake 100 ETH, but you only have, 50,000 people staking. I mean, where does the sort of security y-intercept hit on that stuff? And I don't know how to do the math, but it strikes me at some point that having 500 million people staking 1 ETH is a more secure network than having, whatever inverse you want to grab of that, right? 100,000 staking 100 ETH,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but even like this, Ethereum is still gonna be more decentralized than BSC, Solana, and even the blockchains that don't even work when we need them.
Well, I think that's true, but I think my question would be like, it's so easy to get ETH, right? And it's so easy to stake it and so easy to sort of validate it, right? Where like, in order to do proof of work, it's a lot harder, right? I mean, it's a lot harder to sort of build out the infrastructure to be able to really, grab a lion's share of the Bitcoin, and the way the algorithm works, at least that I understand, that it's always going to kind of be harder to do that over time, right? And at some point, like they're gonna mine the 21 millionth, Bitcoin. Whenever I'd actually be curious, like what the math says that is projected to happen based upon current growth rates. But at some point, like proof of work is done so like what happens with proof of work on the Bitcoin, chain once there's no more Bitcoin to mine and you're just sort of further ossifying previous validations, right? And then do you have to make Bitcoin into does the Lightning Network then become finally useful, for example?
I've heard
right?
some discussions about this actually, and there's two schools of thought here. One of the unpopular schools of thought is that they're just going to keep raising the amount of Bitcoin, right? That they'll break their 21 million hard rule that they hold so dearly. The other one is that at that point, Bitcoin will become a proof of stake network, right? That's been the other school of thought. But the truth is, they don't fucking know. They have no clue.
No, they don't.
Nobody knows. Yeah, it's too early to know.
So this is one thing that Publisher helped clarify from the other day, because one thing I didn't think about, about the merge until I was kind of thinking about flowcharts, right? And how Beacon flows into the proof of work system, and eventually the proof of work system stops validating. But you still got to run proof of work nodes, right? In order to kind of, keep the prior transactions.
Those are validator nodes. Those are set, you wouldn't call them proof of work nodes. They're just validator nodes that anybody can run.
Well, so I guess that's the thing I'm still confused on. So like, for proof of work transaction on Ethereum that took place in 2020, right? Before there was any sort of side chains running. How do those continue to be further, encased in the blockchain
That's
amber
the
going
validator
forward.
nodes, right? So you have two things that really run Ethereum, right? Those are the miners, and then you have the validator nodes, two separate things. Validator nodes are just this thing.
Right.
It's a node that anybody can run that just simply keeps a state of the entire Ethereum blockchain, right? Keeps a record of all the transactions going all the way back to the first block. That's a validator node. The miners, all the miners are doing is all they're doing is validating transactions in real time, right? And they're just making sure those transactions go through. Then the validator nodes are keeping track of those transactions. The nodes aren't going anywhere. The nodes stay the same. Nothing happens with those. All we're switching out is that consensus mechanism where the transactions are being validated in real time.
And they're just being valid. And so you don't need to worry about what happened in the past. It's because the validation.
Right. All the validator nodes
so
still have that state of the blockchain saved, essentially, right?
Got it. Okay. Yeah, that's always been confusing to me, really. Like, so when proof of work stops, like, then what? What happens to all that stuff that was confirmed under proof of work? And you're saying that the validator nodes just continue to confirm that in perpetuity
as long as
they have
people are
validators.
running a node, we'll have a record of the state.
Makes sense. This was a great side chain, guys. How exciting! I didn't think we were going to be talking about this stuff this morning. So
it is, and this is stuff that really needs to be talked about more openly. I think there is a lot of misinformation out there and a lot of lack of education. I can't begin to tell you how many people don't even know that there's two separate things, like a validator node in the miners, right? That those are two completely different things. Most people don't even know that.
I didn't know that.
A lot of people criticize Ethereum, saying that the nodes have to be really big to run them, but they misunderstand this concept that you just explained.
Anybody can run a node, an Ethereum node, and they're not that complicated to run. As long as you have about a terabyte worth of hard drive space, and you can go buy a terabyte hard drive for like $20 at Walmart now. Plug that thing in your USB drive, spin up an Ethereum node. Now you're validating the Ethereum blockchain, and anybody can do that. You're not going to gain Ethereum from it. There's no financial incentive from running a node other than you just love Ethereum and you want to make sure that you have a record of that state at all times. And there are some really cool benefits, especially from a developer point of view. Like if I'm running my own node, I no longer have to rely on MetaMask and stuff to plug into Infura and go through the blockchain that way. I can just plug straight into my own node, launch my own smart contracts from there, and have my node validated. Pretty cool stuff.
That's cool.
There's a service that does this for Bitcoin that's called Umbrella, and they have an OS that you can run on Raspberry Pi to run your Bitcoin nodes at home. You are not mining, you are not getting paid to do that, but you can use your transactions without have to rely on.
Right, and you don't even have to. It's the same. It's the exact same thing. You don't need to rely on a third person or a third party to spin up a Bitcoin node either. You can go to bitcoin.com or wherever it is now to get the or GitHub and just download the Bitcoin node right there and start validating right on the spot. And that's even you only need like a couple megs, I think, for a Bitcoin node. It's stupid easy to run.
Yeah, there are two things that makes me excited about the merge. One is that whenever I look at cryptofees.info, I see that Ethereum is making about $31 million in revenue on a 7-day period. And when I look at the stakers.info, I see that Ethereum has 293,000 validators compared to like Cardano that only got 2,000, or Avalanche only got 1,200. So it's a big difference. That's what makes me like really excited about the Ethereum network compared to other blockchains that are popping up. I mean, I don't know about the future of multi-chain world, but it's probably going to be a thing. But I believe that for these blockchains to grow and have a market share, there needs to be adoption. There needs to be people that are really like, okay, let me use it and see how it goes. So I don't know. I mean, looking forward, I don't know how that's going to be, like how it's going to work. If a centralized blockchain goes down or kick people out, so people are just going to go where the centralization is. So
yeah, and
we
already talked about it. Not everybody cares for decentralization actually.
Yet.
So Ethereum is really important for I believe for big players, institutional money can trust in a blockchain that one of these days cannot work, like Solana did, like Avalanche did several months ago. So Ethereum works, and I know it's expensive to the average Joe. So we're probably gonna have another blockchains, more centralized ones, cheaper ones to people transact. I mean, small money, this kind of stuff. But Ethereum is gonna keep his importance as a blockchain that you can do pretty much everything. Some stuff that you can't do in Bitcoin, for example, that is really secure. It works really well, but as money, but you can do everything there. So I don't see big players playing with BSC, Solana, or Cello, or
Yeah.
name
Ethereum is
anyone.
gonna be like the main settlement big blockchain
We'll see, right? We'll see.
today. Like,
So I think, this goes to proof of stake too, right? And I'm going to say this about Ethereum. I'm going to say this about all of our blockchains. This stuff is so new, guys. We don't know where any of this is going. We could all be dead freaking wrong. And 10 years from now, we're all sitting on the Solana blockchain going, wow, we really fucked this up, guys.
Exactly.
Exactly. Even though I have my doubts about proof of stake, even though I have my serious doubts about other layer ones, right? The fact is, we just don't know where this technology is going to go. We don't know how it's going to evolve. We think we're in the right place at the right time and on the right chain, for crying out loud, but we don't know. So all of this is really yet to be seen, and especially with proof of stake, right? There's a lot of criticisms we can throw out, but at the end of the day, we really just don't know 10 years from now how, and to Hero's point, whether or not that's going to centralize or whether or not it is going to do what some of the developers really think it's going to do and really create this most decentralized version of a blockchain that, is kind of this balancing act between decentralization, right? And there's also this.
We don't even have to go that far. No, we don't even have to go.
One of the things I've heard brought up a lot in this conversation is we've compared Ethereum's decentralization to other blockchains multiple times, saying that relative to other blockchains, Ethereum is still better, and that's true. But just in a very short amount of time, we've seen the bar for decentralization get moved a lot, right? And if you look from a Bitcoiner perspective, my God, we've gone completely off the rails here. So is it better are we more decentralized than other blockchains? Yes. To Hero's point, are we making a trade-off becoming less decentralized than we are now? I think so. Absolutely.
Well, do you think it's even fair to call, Ethereum, more, at least post-merge, more decentralized than
Not at all.
Bitcoin?
Not at all. But I would say it's more
that.
decentralized or more decentralized than a Solana, right?
Like as any kind of computer kind of blockchain, for sure, right? Guys, let's be honest, I don't think Ethereum's going anywhere in the medium term, and maybe the long term it becomes, sort of like the Cadillac version of a programmable blockchain, right? But at some point, you're going to have technology that comes out that we can't imagine, probably using quantum shit, that makes it so it truly is secure and cheap, right? And so right now, that trade-off doesn't work. And we all love L2s, man. But let's be honest, dude. The news coming out of bridges and L2s in terms of security is fucking terrifying, right? And they seem to be buggy. They seem to be unreliable. I love them. I'm all over Arbitrum and Hop and Optimism and everything else, right? Diversify. ZK Sync, you name it, I'm a fan. But I'll tell you, I don't keep a lot of money there, and I don't totally trust it. When I read that Optimism hack that happened the other day, I'm just going there's another one, and we're building this stuff out using. So what we're doing, right? So you take a roll up, and which is pretty new, and then you sort of build. Through this narrative of scalability, a popular place to come hang out that's more popular than the technology can really support, and so I don't know, man. I don't know in the end if rollups are going to work as well as we want them to, because they seem kind of buggy. Granted, ZKs seem to be better, but still, guys, we're in the so I don't ever want to say we're early again, because it's like sort of the IRL thing. It's just like a couple of things that make me cringe. I can't take it. Like, one, this is real life, and no, like, we're not, like, Bitcoin in '09 was early. Like, we're sort of like, maybe in like the end of the first quarter for the initial kind of swing. Maybe we're at the top of the second ending. Like, I don't know, but it ain't that early. But it is early in terms of where we're going to head, because we just don't know, man. Like, you got to think about, 12 years ago, there wasn't even a blockchain, right? And to think that 12 years from now that the blockchain ecosystem's going to look anything like it does now, I think is just sort of willfully ignorant. I do think in the end, like, you're going to have Ethereum in there somewhere for sure, right? And it's very likely that the rest of the ones we've talked about today, aren't really relevant very much, right? I do think that Bitcoin stays relevant, but you're going to have some other fancy tech that comes on board, dude, that's both secure, or no, not just both. It's going to be secure, and it's going to be fast, and it's going to be cheap, and it's going to be built in some way that we can't even foresee. I really believe that, right? And in fact, it's probably built in the bottom of some basement lab somewhere
sitting
under some
at
fancy Ivy League school.
1,500 on CoinMarketCap is where it's at right now.
Amazing, right? And so true. So I don't know, guys. That's kind of why Marxism scares me, because it strikes me as a type of dogma that focuses a lot on the present and the past, kind of like fascism does, but it doesn't really focus on what the future is going to hold, because if we're being honest, like, we just
I'll
have no
tell you
idea,
where I am
right?
a maxi hero, and this is where I think this is kind of some alpha too. I think if you're a developer, right, the only thing that you really care about is the Solidity code, because that, as a developer, is what powers this entire fucking thing, right? Everything that we do here all runs on Solidity smart contracts. So as a developer, it doesn't really matter what blockchain you're on, as long as they're using an EVM compatible blockchain, because as a developer, you can spit your contracts out anywhere, right? So this applies to Ethereum, Polygon, AVAX. I know there's other ones out there that I can't remember. EVM compatible chains are that is the future, right? No developer is going to go fucking learn Rust just so they can develop on Solana. It's not going to happen. Developers that are coming into this space are here for the open source code, and that's Solidity. So I think that's where, if you're really looking for alpha and where this entire space is going in the future, you don't have to look any further than EVM compatible chains. That's where the development's going to happen. That's where these cool new technologies that you're talking about, Hero, are going to pop up, is in EVM Solidity powered chains. End of rant.
Hey, Paul, do you want to add anything to this conversation before we move on to the new subject?
Yeah, I think I get the point from Hero. I think the problem we're always facing is decentralization. Like, you can have any tech in the world, as soon as, if it's not decentralized, I'm not going to trust my money with it for sure. Like, if it's not like $100 or something like that. I think the challenge is also to stay decentralized. And even if Ethereum is not the perfect answer, it's way better than all the other answers, except Bitcoin, I guess.
Yeah, it is right now, right? And Paul, I totally agree with you. Like, right now, it's besides Bitcoin, the most decentralized network. Period. It'll be more decentralized than it is now. Once it's fully proof of stake, I hope. Kind of in the medium term. But I worry that as soon as nation states and institutional investors understand what Ethereum is better, and that once it's kind of hit the mainstream a little more, and then they realize that they can just suck this stuff up, and then essentially control it. I wonder if the narrative shifts a little bit.
It could be, sure.
I just don't know, and so
we don't know.
As someone who, and like so many of us, right? Like, I run off a total lunar punk ethos where I want the bright colors and the pretty green stuff, and the hope and the optimism and the love, and I think that's the vision that we need for the future. And I worry that if we, right now build technology that can in the future promote centralization under the guise of something else, especially when the popular narrative is something different, that it just makes my hackles a little bit raised. Now, again, I'm not selling my Ethereum tomorrow or next year, right? But it's just something I'm watching out for, And so, when you have the first country who puts Ethereum, inside of their wallet, I'm going to be a little concerned, right? And I like it when I read our friends in Brazil and Rio de Janeiro, and they want to, put some Bitcoin in their public treasury, like I think that's great, right? But if that started to happen more, and if all of a sudden, some countries that don't have super great records of being really team players, these are very general terms, start going, we just bought, $7 billion worth of Ethereum, I'm going to be a little concerned.
Yeah, I agree. Like if a country is not interested in your blockchain long run, it's probably a bad sign. And if they are, it's pressure as well for the blockchain.
That's so true. So true. All right, Gelfi, we killed this thing, but this was a wonderful, unexpected conversation. I feel like I should have prepped for it a little better.
So, publisher, why don't you tell us, our audience, the stuff that you put out there?
So we should probably talk about Good Morning News, huh? I think that's why we're all here. So, 45 minutes into it, let's talk about why we're all here. So we put out some cool new updates last week, man. We rolled out the multi-page publication. In less than 24 hours, we were able to get audio added to that publication, that happened a lot quicker than I thought it would. Really cool stuff. Really, really cool stuff. I'll say this, in solving the problem of multi-page publications, it really opened up the door for some really cool stuff that I'm excited about here in the very near future. I'll say this. I might have said this to Hero the other day, so forgive me for repeating myself, buddy. But while the rest of the world was trying to put NFTs into video games, I think I figured out how to put video games into NFTs. And I think we'll leave it there for the day.
Wow, that's a really nice offer there, huh? Stay tuned, everyone.
To double alpha that thing, I can just tell you that not only publisher figured out how to put a video game into an NFT, it was actually.
What was your
really
high score, Hero? Did you beat me?
I don't know. No, I don't know. Like I think it was around 8,000 or 9,000.
I couldn't get
or
over 1,500.
And so, oh god, I got into it. It reminded me of when I was a kid. In the 80s, if you can remember when that was, who no one here was alive then. Publisher was a baby. We had this game called 10-Yard Fight. I think. No, that's not quite right. It was pretty close. 10-Yard Fight was Nintendo. This was something different, and it was a handheld game that was maybe like 6 inches by 4 inches, and it was vertical, and you had up, down, left, right buttons, and that was it. And you just had to dodge more or less static players on a moving screen, which is really similar to something that my friend has done. And so it brought back memories of being like an 8-year-old with this little white plastic box playing this red diode game,
Takes
for hours
right
on
back
it.
to the old Atari days, doesn't it?
I was there, and then there's a Pong aspect too without the bounce, and so it was super cool. I do have the triple alpha and know what publishers' plans are for it. I cannot talk about it, but it's pretty revolutionary, man. Like it's something else, no doubt. To go to, and this is not even the multi-page NFT cool part, right? This is just like something you dialed in as a pet project. The multi-page NFTs, allow us to really, be the newspaper of record that
it really is the holy grail, right? And we reached it so quickly. Here, I remember. Going all the way back to issue 5 and us having this conversation of getting to this holy grail spot of having a multi-page NFT that allows us to really have what at the time we were calling the Kindle experience, right? And I'll be damned if less than 100 issues later we're there.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, for me, I'm thinking, well, what can't we do with this thing now, right? And so you can take it over to some of our playgrounds and use it there. You could put all of the Bankless DAO newsletters on chain. You could put
books, comic books, which is what I'm, right? A little more alpha leaking out here, talking with Mr. Perchy about releasing an entire comic book now of all of his comics, which.
Yeah, so it just
not at all.
So now we're not bounded, right? And so, and so now it's just like, okay, so we're here now, and we have this, and then it's like, now what, right? And so The first move is publishers working on putting an old issue of decentralized law on there as a test case. We're getting a proposal dialed in with the Writers Guild at Bankless DAO to do some partnership work. And I am hopeful before too long that this technology is used to start putting our newsletters on chain, right? And I'm not even hopeful.
My hope is to see these cool little contracts that I've built just proliferated across the ecosystem. I want to see these contracts everywhere. That's my vision.
No, this is gonna happen. Everybody will love to read his favorite and newsletter on an NFC with multiple pages.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it. I mean, so the last hurdle,
wallets.
really, not the last hurdle, but I think for me,
wallets. That's my final mountain.
Correct. Well, so it's two. Then wallets is huge, right? And I think somebody probably should download Rainbow and fire up an account to see how that thing is, because everyone, like, for the last 5 or 6 months, all we've talked about is how pretty it could look in wallet.
Dude, I'm bugging the team
Rainbow,
every day. Every day,
right?
I'm like, when Polygon NFTs, guys, come on.
Totally. That's the problem. They don't support
They started to. They rolled it out last week. They're supporting like the top 10 projects now on Polygon, and they're slowly rolling out to everything. So I don't.
Why are they? Why?
I don't know. I don't know the reasoning behind it. Besides them just being assholes.
Or whatever. It sounds like assholes. I agree. But so wallet, agreed, and having a good in-wallet viewer to be able to read this in a way that feels natural, like a Kindle, right? Two, I think for me, I don't know if it's possible. Publisher, you tell me, like, how do we get around the fact that you have to refresh your metadata to get the new issue? Because that's maybe like one step that people just get lazy about, right? And so if I'm thinking about how to make this simpler, like, how can you push that? And I don't know that there's a way to do that.
There actually is. And it actually comes all the way back to our little, the breakthrough I had with the multi-page publication. There is. And I'm actually glad you brought that up, because now you've got my wheels turning. With the multi-page publication, right, at the end of the day, that thing is pointing to like this line of, or this block of HTML code, which is far different than what we've had in the past, right? In the past, we were just pointing to like a PNG, a static PNG, right? But with this new dynamic block of code that I have, there's no reason why I couldn't just throw in like an auto refresh function in there that automatically refreshes that entire HTML page anytime it loads up, regardless of whether you refresh that metadata or not. Now, there is something we're going to lose with that, and it's actually something that I've grown to love quite a bit. If you go over to our OpenSea page now, and you look at the properties of any of our publications, you're going to see the list of credits, right, with everyone who's contributed to those publications. And those stats that are in there are stats that are baked in based on whether or not people have gone in and refreshed their metadata, right? Because if everyone were to go refresh all their metadata at once, you would see the same credits for that publication across the board. So there'd be no like percentages in there. It'd just be 100% for everybody. Does that make sense? Whereas right now you actually get this real-time feedback of Hero's written 50% of the articles, Katrina's edited 70% of the articles, and I've voiced over 20% of them, right? So I thought that was really cool, and we would lose that, which, we could put that up to the community or not, whether or not they'd be okay with that or not.
So we don't have that now, though, right? Like, you can't see that Hero has written most of the articles, or you view most of them, or Katrina's edited most of them. That's the whole
point of it.
Yes, you can.
Where do you? I've never even known. So where does it say? Where does it show? Is that just in the characteristics? I've never looked. Guys, here's the dirty secret. Like, because I basically write every article, like, I don't ever refresh my metadata because I already know what it says. And I've been doing a lot more VO work lately too, so I know how the VO sounds too.
You click on any one of the publications and you go down to the properties, you'll see the list of all of our credits in those percentages of who did what and how many times they've done it. Super cool. Good Lord, Hero.
I had no idea. Cool. So that is so funny. So like, so can you see just for that issue, or can
it's
you see
for all
like,
of them, but it's only based on who's gone in and refreshed that metadata, right?
No, I mean, that's where you're losing me a little bit, And so like I don't ever refresh my metadata. So what does that mean for me?
So you're kind of thinking about it wrong. So good.
I know it sounds like
are you at your
it feels
computer
like
right now? Maybe we
Correct.
shouldn't do this during the podcast. Hero, let's talk after the podcast, buddy. We'll get you going.
God,
Yeah,
I
we'll
didn't
get
know
you.
this was so much
Only
cool
100
stuff. I had
issues
no
later,
idea
and
we
you're
had
figuring
this.
out how all this. We still don't even know how our token works, for crying out loud.
Well, I mean, so I like it. Tokenomics is one thing where I think I understand it, and then I just don't, in the end. But so, like, I understand that, like, it's gonna. Well, actually, no. Let's just talk about it later. Never mind. Later.
Yeah, we're
Kelp is
coming to
about to
an
just
end,
cut
by
us
the
off
way.
here.
Just
We're
so you
done, guys.
know.
I know.
Yes.
He's done with us.
I want before Hero convince our audience to join GMN, I want to remind everyone that we have a German version of GMN and a Portuguese version of it, and who knows what other language is
Just
going to
need
be
people to
there
do
out
it.
there in the future. So Hero, why don't you? Yes, just people to do it. Why don't you go and convince our audience to join GMN?
Well, so I mean, I shouldn't have to convince you to join GMN, right? I mean, you've spent the last 45 minutes listening to GMN talk with each other about the world. It's, hopefully it's a somewhat interesting conversation for you. GMN sells itself, guys. This is the world's first decentralized on-chain news organization. We have lost our guardrails. You're not limited to 250 words anymore. You're not limited to, sort of being closed out from the voting system because we have changed the way that we vote. So now the entire world gets to vote on stories, not just the Western Hemisphere. You can come in here. You can write whatever you want. You can vote on whatever you want. You can participate however you want. There are no rules, and you do get paid in the beautiful paper token for the work that you do. So the truth is, like, I'm not going to convince you to join. Like, you should join because you are compelled to join, because you feel the urge to join, because you want to be part of something that's bigger than any other news organization out there, bigger, because it's the one thing that's going to change the way that we work and view
Well said,
news.
sir.
Come join us.
Well said.
Wonderful.
Yes. I want to give you guys a full disclaimer here. Nothing that we talked here today was any financial or legal advice. So before you invest in crypto or do any stupid stuff there, go do your own research. All right. I think that's
Good
it,
work,
guys.
team.
All done for today. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Great.
Nice,
Nice to
Kelpie.
be here.
That was fun.